right.
Okay, I'm back just to update you guys. This is not working well for some reason tonight. I just had a really hard time going live even, so I'm not sure. I don't have an explanation for it, but I did just let 2 more people in. Jake Hill called earlier and said that he was on his way back from Anchorage, but he will try to join in when he's able to. And that's, I think that's the only one that I know of.
Okay, thanks for that. So we will go ahead and call to order our grant review and special meeting for tonight, March 30th, here on the internet. And to a brief overview of our agenda, we are gonna, this is gonna be a regular meeting, so we will take some public comments. But there's also, during each of the 3 grant application review sessions, there's time for applicant comment and public comment as we go through. So if you are an applicant and want to talk specifically to your application, wait for those times to come up, I'd say. And then just for anybody that is following along at home, if you want to join us, you can call into the borough office at 683-1330 or email the clerk at arenshaw@denelliborough.com, and we can share the link to join in on the Zoom call here. Yeah, especially if you're one of the applicants and want to join in. But glad to hear from anybody over the phone. So calling the meeting to order, and to do that, I would ask Mayor Walker to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd be so willing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Walker. And I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Sorry, I'm all befuddled here. I forgot to hit mute. Okay, Dominic Denelli,
Here.
Jake Hill, Talon Shreve, okay, Lisa Miner,
Here.
Joe Chatfield,
Here.
Jeff Stinger,
Here.
Eileen Holmes, Krista Zappone.
Here.
Whoops, I'm missing one. What did I miss here?
I'm here.
Sorry, Jared. I already talked to you. I guess that's what messed me up. Like what? Okay, Jared Zimmerman. There's a quorum.
It does look like Mr. Shreve is dialed in here.
Yeah, that's why I paused. I can see him, but I cannot hear him.
Well, maybe can confirm his presence in a little bit here, but I would entertain a motion to excuse Mr. Hill and Ms. Holmes.
I'll move to excuse Mr. Hill and Ms. Holmes.
Second.
Any discussion on excusing? Anyone opposed to excusing? Hearing none, we'll call that unanimous. You're excused. And do we have any public comments at this time?
Let me get into my email real quick, just to double check. No, I just have someone asking for an updated link, so I'll send that now.
Okay. All right. There's no public comment. We'll move on to the administrative recommendation. Mayor Walker, what do you have for us?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Zimmerman. I guess I'd like to give you a little overview for starters. And one is that, this is actually our first time conducting a full assembly grant review. We changed the code to amend from a 3-person matching grant review committee to the entire assembly reviewing the grant applications of these 3 categories. And there are other categories actually too. But, and then of course, last year, everything changed with COVID, and CARES Act funding was utilized to support our nonprofits last year. It was our grant program was not. So we didn't go through this exercise last year. So this will be our first time going through this exercise. So I asked the public and even the applicants to kind of bear with us as we go through something of a new process, in which the assembly will review the matching grant application, applications, nonprofit grant applications, and emergency services and public safety grant applications. And tonight you'll be, the outcome will be to make a determination which staff will then turn into resolutions, which will come before you at the next meeting. And a resolution is just that. It is an intent. It is a desire. It is something that you support. But the law is actually the ordinance of the budget when the budget is passed. So when these funding recommendations are included in the budget is when it becomes real. But so that's our process. And so to kind of give the overall picture, these requests and the sums that we recommend do need to fit within the overall budget picture. And we know that we've had incredibly steep losses in revenue, both last year, especially last year, and we expect steep losses again this year. We did see overnight accommodations tax, our main revenue source, decline by over 90% last year. And we expect well over 50% decline from 19 this year. So, so prior to the application period for nonprofit funding, I did craft a letter that was sent to all the nonprofits explaining our fiscal position and how we would be constrained this year. And I did ask that they consider a conservative approach to requests of the borough this year. And that letter was sent out prior to the application period. And I think that for the most part, organizations really took that to heart and did sharpen their pencils and did provide some requests that were lower than other years' requests, and are all very, very reasonable, very mostly very well thought out and presented requests. And I wish that we could fund them all. We have been in that position in the not too distant past to do just that, to fund every request, pretty much. We've done that just a couple years ago. And this year, of course, without CARES funding availability, this is using general fund dollars. And we said to get through this, we're going to need to preserve general fund dollars. That I am going to recommend some reduced funding as you see in the kind of spreadsheet one-pager entitled Fiscal Year 2022, it should be grant requests and mayor recommendation. So the emphasis is on public safety. The summer medic program that provides EMT service, emergency medical service through the summer here, is funded to not the full request, but a significant number, which is more than half of the total sum at the bottom. At the bottom of mayor recommendation column, you'll see a total of $362,000 in general fund dollars to go out the door to our nonprofits in support of these services. And of course, the majority of that is for public safety and emergency response. So I am going to recommend that the matching grant program not be funded this year. It's tough to do that. It's probably the first time we've ever done that. It's a great program, the matching grant program, and I value that a lot. And it's done a lot of great projects in the borough, and these are some worthy projects that are requested, but we're not in a position, I don't believe, this year to support those through the matching grant program. And then, yeah, the various nonprofits who all have different sums for their requests, we did kind of take a flatline approach, a baseline approach of keeping the lights on and providing $5,000 to a majority, but there are a few who, we think there are some other avenues of funding for some of those other groups. And this really is a year to do what the borough's doing, and that is focus on federal funding that's coming out. There are some opportunities for these groups to look to other organizations and other levels of government for funding. So, and I'd be happy to speak to those more in detail if you like, but that's the general approach of my recommendations for grant funding this year. And just so you know, process-wise, those are my recommendations, but it's really going to be the Assembly's determination, resolution, and then it's the Assembly's budget. Once the budget comes to you, it's your puppy, and amendments or additions or subtractions are both perfectly allowable by the Assembly. You do hold the purse strings.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Walker. Any questions for the mayor kind of on that overview? Okay, appreciate all the context you provided there. With that, we'll move on to discussion of the matching grants specifically, and then first up is the administrative matching grant report and recommendation. So I'd go back to you, I guess, Mayor Walker, for that one, and we'll see if we have any applicant comment here, but Mayor Walker first.
I'm sorry about that. All right, I'm here. Kobe Farm Community and McKinley Community Club did put in. Normally, we do have more than 2 applicants for this grant program, in which the Assembly can fund up to 3 projects for, I think our total as we rewrote the code was upwards of over $70,000. So these requests are smaller requests than we've seen in the past. And so we know the farm community, the focus of their project are road improvements, and McKinley's community club wrote a good application for matching funds to replace and relocate plumbing within the kitchen area. We do have an applicant on the Zoom. If we'd maybe like to open it up to the applicant comment at this period, but that's pretty much what I've got. And I wish we were in a position to fund the matching grant request this year, but this year I recommend that we don't fund the whole program.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Walker. Yeah, looks like we have, just going down the list. First up, we had the Kobe Farm Community. Ms. DeBlau, it looks like you're here on the call. Did you have any comment?
Mr. Blau, if you are talking, your phone is still on mute and we cannot hear you.
On mute. Thank you, dear. Now you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Welcome.
good evening. I will start over. Yes, I heard the mayor. I think he said that the matching applications would not be granted this year. My comment, and I understand that, my comment is that the DNR has given the borough for 5 years that Kobe Farm can use the gravel. It's free. And there's 2 years gone by now. And this is a big resource, this free gravel. And, you know, we would be paying for the hauling, trucking of it. But I just ask you to keep that in mind, you know, that of course it is, you know, a hard time with the pandemic and all that, but this is free gravel looking at us in the face that we can use. And that would be the whole crux of my argument for our application, that we don't, you know, we realize we have a time limit on this resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeBlau. Any questions for Ms. DeBlau while she's here? I guess I just like to clarify that that permit was obtained by the borough, and it's not the farm community's permit. Is that right?
That is right.
Okay.
And if I could add that, yeah, the DNR can grant that to a municipality for use on a public right of way, but not to a nonprofit. So yeah, we did apply for that, receive that, and happy to provide access to that resource, as Mr. Blau stated. And it is a 5-year permit. We do need to report on it each year. DNR didn't necessarily say that it could not be renewed.
Okay, yeah.
Ms. Zapone.
Yeah, my other comment, kind of on the same line of this conversation now, is there may be opportunity to not necessarily remove, but extend it, because we are going to probably be looking at a 2 or 3 year lull. I mean, renewed, or just have a, you know, COVID forgiveness period, or just because the funding's not there, we don't really have means to get that gravel extracted. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, that's what our expense would be, is getting it extracted and, you know, hauled over to the road. Yeah. So if they could extend it, wonderful. I guess the borough would look into that and see if that's possible.
We can certainly do that. I would expect that they would ask that we do that towards the end of that 5-year period.
Okay, so, okay. That's it for me on the matching.
Okay.
Other than to report that with $10,000 last year, we were able to put in, if you read the report, more culverts And there is some upgrading of the road going on, and we're happy to see it. It's a slow process. We wish we wouldn't have to do the roads, you know, in the borough. Wish there was another source. But roads are kind of up there on everybody's list to have a decent road. So yeah, we're committed to this project. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. DeBlanc. And then Mr. Ireland with McKinley Community Club. You have a comment this time?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks again for giving us the chance to comment. We certainly understand the situation that the borough finds itself in financially, that it continues. Our main reason to apply for this, the grant for this project, was just the timing of it. It was an opportune time to get this work done because we're just coming out of the work, the major expansion of the McKinley Volunteer Fire Department's fire hall facilities, and kind of set up some of the infrastructure for us to be able to shift this plumbing and make some corresponding moves in the kitchen that would make it a little more efficient, move some plumbing away from an external wall and everything. The other half of what made it good timing is that even though we're starting to go back into being open to the public coming this summer and having community events happen again as much as COVID safety allows us, we know that we're not going to have as much of that, and that this project would, it would still be a good time over this coming summer or fall to be able to do that work if we could. That said, if we are granted anything, we would go forth and do this piece of work, and if not, we would likely just hold on to it. We may submit a very similar looking application next year to be able to build off it and do the work in the next fiscal year.
Okay. I see Mr. Mitchell there as well. Do you have any comment?
I don't have any comment at this time. Dan covered it pretty well. This is just the opportune time to follow up off of the Volunteer Fire Department's CARES Act grant that they had received, and make the improvements to the community center, provide better sanitation and cleaning of the kitchen in those areas. The facility has, through the VFD grant that they received through the CARES Act, been able to upgrade our facilities, bathrooms and things like that in the community center. And the kitchen is just another component of that project that we need to get accomplished at some time.
Yeah, Mr. Ireland.
I should add too, we are looking at, we continue to look at other funding opportunities and to see if any other, kinds of grant funds come up under COVID response and CARES. Obviously, in the last year, there were some opportunities. We are a 501c7 social club. And so since we're not the strict charitable organization, a lot of the funds that have emerged in the last year have not been available to our organization. We're actually working on trying to reestablish or trying to get a different designation from the IRS. I believe our organization has tried before and not succeeded, but we are trying again to see if we can get that in. It seems like it has as much to do with naming and nomenclature than it does with our actual operations, but it also takes several months to get that. So we'll continue to work on what we can to try to be able to find other funding sources, but that's been a little bit of a hamstringing for us to be able to look and get funds that have been available.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. And yeah, thank you. I know the community centers hosted our assembly for many years now, a couple of times a year down there, and certainly look forward to getting back down there for those meetings. Any questions for the McKinley Community Club? Okay, open it up for any public comment. We heard anything by email or phone?
Nope, nothing right now.
Okay, and then I guess I'd look for just a assembly discussion, and coming out of that would be I'd look for a motion, kind of with our recommendation, either to kind of concur with the mayor and forward, kind of, I guess, take on that recommendation through assembly resolution, or certainly entertain any alternatives.
Chairman Zimmerman,
Yep, Mayor Walker.
if I may, I'll just offer to both McKinley Community Club and Kobe Farm Community that we will certainly keep an eye out for you as we look at what's coming out of the American Rescue Plan, which does have really three emphases of a lot of funding. One is broadband, another is water and sewer projects, and the third is childcare, which we can talk about later too. But those are definitely highlighted focuses of that act and federal funding that will be available in the future. And then there's the potential of the infrastructure bill, which, improvements to a road which allow farm products to come out of may be a compelling case. So we'll do what we can to look for those opportunities and pass those along as we see them come down.
What was the name of that first one, Mr. Mayor? And then Mr. Zimmerman, Mrs. Minor has a comment after that.
Thank you.
The act is the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, which is the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, which passed, is signed, and is law of the land and is being implemented. But a lot of that implementation language is being developed right now.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And Ms. Minor.
I just had a quick clarifying question. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but the roads, because like Stampede and Kobe, they're nonprofit, is that why the borough doesn't maintain roads? Is it just, can I get some clarification on that? Just
You want to take that, Mayor Walker?
The borough has not taken on road powers. We've not established road service areas, which is a way that boroughs have helped residents maintain their roads through taxation, is through road service areas. And for example, our neighbors to the north and south, the Denali borough has not imposed taxation upon our people to establish their own road service areas.
Yeah, and I would add, just for us here in the Pangini subdivision, before the borough was around and the state was flush with cash, the homeowners association organized and was able to get direct grants from the state. So for the lion's share of the roads out here that have been built along the platted right of ways, where a lot of that was done with state grant funding before the borough came around, and the borough has helped to support maintenance, since then, as the homeowner association doesn't qualify for the direct community assistance anymore. Is there a recommend, or I guess a motion from the assembly, or I would entertain a motion to move ahead with the mayor's recommendation of not awarding any matching grants this year?
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Chatfield, correct me if I'm wrong, but you moved to not award any matching grants this year, and that's been seconded.
That is correct.
Any discussion?
Yes, I would just like to say that, we're in very unique times, and And I think everybody can understand this, and I really don't see it as any kind of a point where there could be any contention here. We're just in really hard times, and we're going to have to start cutting things for a while. And when things improve, well, things will start coming back.
Other discussion?
Yeah, I would just agree with Mr. Chatfield's assessment. I think we'll see that certainly as a pattern as we go through the remaining grants and the recommendations that have been put forth. And of course, the recommendations, from what I've been able to determine, are designed to look at the overall borough needs as a whole from a budgetary standpoint. So the fact that we're in a position to grant some level of funding for these programs speaks volumes to what the mayor and staff have been able to do to whittle down into something that is more manageable for the times.
Other discussion regarding matching grant program? Anyone opposed to moving forward with that recommendation? Hearing none, call that unanimous. And move on to the nonprofit grant application review. And I guess again, go back to Mayor Walker for the grant report and recommendations specific to the nonprofit grant program.
Yeah, thank you. And again, these groups did put in very reasonable requests. These are sums that we have funded to in the past and wish we could again. We're not in that position this year. And we went with a keep the lights on approach of $5,000 for Healy Hockey Association, Denali Visitor Center, Denali Chamber of Commerce. There may be some other economic development avenues that could result in other possibilities for the Denali Visitor Center. We'll continue to pursue those and look into those, but for these general fund dollars, we're recommending $5,000. Railbelt Mental Health, that's the building they maintain in Healy and provide services from. So we mentioned Kobe Farm Community. We felt like we were in a position to be able to support that road project, and right now, not feeling that way. Cantwell Community Library, 5,000. Tri-Valley Community Library historically has asked for 10, received 10, 5,000. Pangini Creek Homeowners Association, they really did reduce their ask this year to just over 5,000. That's the lowest I've seen in a lot of years from that organization. And McKinley Community Club, they do have significant utility bills that we've helped with through this program, and 5,000 might not cover all the utilities. And it could be a more challenging year for that organization. They are fortunate to have some good donations from the community. And then we get to Denali Preschool and Learning Center, and personally, I love to support the one licensed daycare in our borough, and have in a lot of ways over the years. And in fact, the borough last year supported DPLC through the CARES funding, actually to the tune of $90,000 in a couple different allocations. So we feel really good about being able to help just a few months ago. But right now, we're not in that position, and we do see that there could well be and should be some of those $1.9 trillion that the American Rescue Plan that is going to have significant monies for childcare in there, and I'm participating with the Alaska Conference of Mayors, as we are establishing as a focus of recovery, childcare, actually. And so I look forward to continuing with the Conference of Mayors and learning more about how we can support childcare in our areas. But at this time, I'm going to say not with Denali Borough General Fund dollars.
Thank you, Mayor Walker. Move on to applicant comment.
Mr. Zimmerman, you
Yeah,
have
Mrs.
a hand with Ms. Haugen there.
Ms. Haugen. Yes, go ahead. Ms.
I was
Haugen.
going to wait till the end to make this comment, but I'm going to say it now just because of the temperature of the conversation a little bit. Just a little, I would say a couple weeks ago, I was able to subscribe to what's called AlaskaGrantWatch.com, and they sort of collect different grants that nonprofits are eligible for. So I have been active searching, kind of scrubbing the new grants that come out. And I just wanted to let our nonprofits know that I am actively keeping an eye on other grant opportunities, not through the Denali Borough, but through other sources, through this format. And I will be pushing those out as soon as possible if anything comes up that I feel like will be applicable to our nonprofits. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, just make everyone feel like we really are wanting other sources to tap into grant funding for our organizations too.
Great, thank you, Ms. Haugen. I guess any questions for staff before we move on to assembly, or I'm sorry, to applicant comment? Okay, to organize or just to move through the applicant comments, I'll just go down our list here, and if anybody wants to speak to these, please chime in. But first up is Healy Hockey. Okay, and then Denali Visitor Center.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Jusak.
I don't have anything to add. Just thank you all around. Appreciate
Okay.
it. Same for the chamber.
All right, thank you for that. And Relbel Mental Health. Don't see anyone on the call. And Kobe Farm Community. Ms. DeBlau, you are muted.
Sorry.
Anything.
Am I correct in saying I understood Kobe Farm is getting something for a nonprofit grant?
The mayor does not have any funds in his recommendation for Kobe Farm Community.
For Kobe Farm. Oh, okay. Thank you.
And Cantwell Community Library. Did see. Mr. Denelli.
Yeah, just to let folks know, Cynthia Bryan only had chat capability, so I'm monitoring any messaging that she sends forward, and I will relay it through audio if any comes through. Right now, she's saying, thank you for supporting our library.
Thanks, Ms. Bryan, and thank you, Mr. Denelli. And Tri-Valley Community Library. And Pangini Homeowners. And McKinley Community Club.
Yeah, I'll just to clarify briefly, you didn't see a very much of a modified grant request from us this year. We felt it was important just to document the need with the understanding that we will gladly accept whatever the borough can afford to provide for us. But we did go ahead and provide or requests consistent with other years. In our case, even though the lights have been off, we still have a lot of those costs to keep a facility there. As you noted, this last year we had to provide some of the utilities for the construction work. And again, we will, work with whatever's provided to us, and we appreciate that. But we did choose not to modify the request for that reason, so that it's documented.
Thank you for that. All right, and Denelli Preschool Learning Center.
Hi, thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to come here and talk. I'm on behalf of the preschool. We are very grateful for all the funds that we got last year from the borough, and we did spend them in 2020 thinking that not knowing that they would be extended, that we would be able to spend them in this year. And last year, our revenue was only 50% of what it was in previous years because kids, we had frequent closures. We followed Tri-Valley's school risk level. And then we also had parents keeping their kids home because of the uncertainty of COVID. And we really appreciate all the support that you did give us for our kids. I talked to the child care office this week asking them about the funds, and they currently don't know when they'll be released to daycare providers, licensed providers. They don't know if they're going to be released or if they're going to go through the different government organizations. Their suggestion was to just keep reaching out to our local government and asking them for funds. It's a gamble whether or not they're going to give us any money. I'm not comfortable with gambling the future of our kids and our children in the community with maybe there will be funds, maybe there won't be, because if there aren't any funds, then we are not sustainable if they're with the numbers the way that they are right now. And so I am hopeful for some money and appreciative of anything that we do get.
Thank you, Ms. Filardi. And is there any public comment regarding the nonprofit grant program?
This is Kobe Farm again.
Go ahead, Ms. Bowman.
Well, I just was kind of curious why we wouldn't get some of the nonprofit grant. The total amount was 8,000, and if it was, I got something in there for 5,000, that would be acceptable. We'd be grateful. I guess I was just curious, would like to know.
All right. Yeah, I guess that is the mayor's recommendation, and let's kind of put that on our table at this point. But
does he have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Blau. Yeah, I did provide kind of my justification for my recommendations, and I do recall years ago when, previous mayor, recommended some lower funding for an organization. The organization came to the assembly, and he's turned to the assembly, which I was on, and said, "I'm providing you guys the opportunity to be the good guys if you want, but you got to consider the overall fiscal picture too."
Thank you.
Mayor Walker. And if there's no other public comment, open up for assembly discussion. I guess of mayor's recommendation, or a motion to amend that, or move forward. Ms. Zapone.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Zimmerman. So I just wanted to first kind of voice appreciation and thanks for the applications. I kind of agree to the tune of Mr. Ireland and the community club of McKinley Village that documenting our sudden inability to fund these programs, where we have a very, vibrant history of funding these programs to more often than not their fullest request. We've continually supported our nonprofits, and so this is kind of a humbling standpoint, I think, for me to have to say that we can't fully fund Healy Hockey. We can't fully fund the libraries, when in my experience as a Denali Borough Assembly person in the past 7 years or so, we have been able to do that. So as frustrating as it is for folks, we're equally disappointed in a lot of ways, I think. And I can only speak for myself, of course, but we like that there are groups out there handling things that need to be handled for the well-being of the borough. And it's been a great pleasure to support those things. But I feel like, considering where we're at, looking at the mentioned 90% or so decrease in revenue, with a projected loss again coming into the 2022 season, as unfun as it is, we really need to be realistic. And so I hope people don't walk away feeling personally scrutinized, or we're really just trying to do the best we can with what we've got. And I really appreciate how the applications are stepping it up in quality. And I read all the minutes. You guys really are doing good work. So please don't let these awards reflect our opinion of what you guys are doing.
It's Jeff. I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Mr. Stinger.
I understand what Kobe community's asking for. I mean, that's my backyard too. Don't use that road as much. And I appreciate all the effort and work that's gone into the mayor's recommendations. These are trying times, and giving what we can, or matching what we can, is pretty important. If it came between funding preschool and learning center versus gravel on the road, I'm always going to go with the kids in learning center. But that doesn't mean that when our financial hard times don't turn around, we're going to be funding like we were before, but right now we have to understand that these are hard times. And that's about all I got.
What I have to say is more of a question for the mayor. Mayor Walker, I'm just looking through and seeing all the organizations, and they all seem to have some kind of infrastructure, some kind of a hard infrastructure, like a building or something like that. And I was just wondering if that may have played into your recommendation there with Kobe Farm Community, because I know this is something that you yourself have put a lot of work into in trying to support Kobe Farm Community. So yeah, I think maybe it would be good if you could explain a little bit of the thought process there, so that perhaps people might not have any misunderstandings.
And you are muted, Mr. Walker.
Sorry about that. Yeah, thanks for that, Mr. Chatfield. It's true that when I said keep the lights on, the efforts of the Kobe Farm Community are in relationship to upgrades of transportation network to get products out the farm to the community. And you're right that they don't have that facility to maintain in terms of those basic utilities that these funds have over the years gone a long way to support. These are reimbursable grants, by the way. As most of you are familiar with that. They're reimbursable grants. They're quarterly reporting. And every quarter I go through those requests for reimbursement and, approve and of course sign the checks. And it's a lot of utilities. It's a lot of electric, some heating, some phone. That's a lot of what we're helping to support in these organizations at its core, at its base. And so that's a good point, Mr. Chatfield, that KFC, it is a different type of request than we've been funding all these years. And we did, as you all know, kind of wrestle with that first time supporting road projects and how can we help? And gosh, we could ask for free gravel, we can do these things with DNR. And yeah, we did provide them with some grant funding as they did form a nonprofit. And that's not to say we won't do it again. But I'm at this time not recommending that particular line item. But again, it's in the Assembly's court.
Thank you, Mayor Walker.
You bet.
Okay, Ms. Zapone.
Yeah, thank you. One of my other comments in this this grant section here is kind of an open-ended question for anybody listening or anybody that has time to talk to me in the next few days. I'm curious to find more about what services are actually being offered through Railbelt Mental Health. I know they've had a history of receiving this grant, and it is for their facility that is here in the subdivision in Healy. That exists. That's not my question. I'm just wondering how actively they're serving our community. I just spent some time this afternoon on the website, and they do offer services in Anderson as well. But the grant on the table here is for specifically the facility utilities, kind of like with the Kobe Road question, brick and mortar type relief. So if there's anybody tuning in here tonight that can maybe provide me some information, I've already written an email to the executive director of Railbelt Mental Health asking for kind of a breakdown or some material on their behalf. But if there is somebody in the community paying attention that wants to talk to me about it, I would entertain that. $5,000 compared to what, again, we've been giving them in the past, and even what they've asked for is minimal. But in times like this, sometimes every penny matters. And with their operation, maybe they have a little bit more structure to get at some of the other funding than some of the other folks on the list here. So kind of an open-ended, long-winded question, but I am seeking information for that. And if nobody has any, that is quite okay. I will find it.
I think that, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor Walker.
I applaud you. Did you reach out to Director Rosemary Allen?
I drafted her an email this afternoon. It would have been right around closing time, so I'm hoping to hear from her in the coming days. But good. I did, yes.
Good, thank you.
I guess if there isn't another motion from the assembly, I guess I would entertain a motion to move forward with the mayor's recommendation. But Ms. Zapone?
I do have kind of a clerical question. If we as a body here tonight move forward with the recommendations, we're like the mayor mentioned, this is a living document through the end of budget season. So I guess I'm verifying that whatever we decide tonight is not necessarily final. Is that correct?
Mayor Walker.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks. I was thinking about clarifying that as well, wherein what you're providing tonight is direction for staff to craft a resolution for your next meeting, and that resolution can be amended. And then that information goes into the budget, which of course gets full consideration. And that's historically, you know, again, this is kind of a new way of doing this. Historically, these just went right into the budget, and that's when we deliberated them. And that's when we talked about line items. And it's certainly fodder for discussion and or amendments at that time as well.
Thank you again.
Mhm.
So is it possible to make an amendment to this recommendation to give another, put a 5,000 in for the Denali Preschool and Learning Center? Or is that not an option?
Yep, now would be a fine time to make such a motion. Yeah, it'll come up in a couple of different ways before we finalize our budget, you know, at the June meeting. So.
Okay, well,
But
I'd
if you
like
want to
to,
make that motion now, go ahead.
I would like to make the motion to include the Denali Preschool and Learning Center $5,000, as with some of the other brick and mortar utilities maintenance that we did with similar nonprofits.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion. Like it's been mentioned, we can always discuss it, you know, further through this process. So.
Any discussion on the motion to include $5,000 in the nonprofit grant program for the Preschool and Learning Center? Anyone opposed to that motion?
Well, I have a question about this.
Go ahead, Mr. Chatfield.
I understand they have other funding sources, and I think that may have had something to do with the mayor's recommendation. I would, before I make a move on saying yes or no to this, I would like to see a little bit more information on that. I certainly wouldn't want to put them in dire straits financially, but at the same time, if this is something that they can absorb like the others are going to have to do, I think we all need to share the load here. So I don't want to seem heartless or anything, but these truly are hard times, and if they do have other funding sources, we need to make sure that they're tapping into those, and you know, it's really for the best for everyone in that case. So I know the mayor put a lot of thought into this, so I would just like more information before making a concrete decision on this, either yes or no. I'm on the fence on it at this point.
Mrs. Zapone?
I think I understand what you're saying there, Joe, and I guess part of my reasoning for the second is that the resolution will be drafted and then given to us at the next regular assembly meeting. And that gives us a week, I think, or is it 2? I think it's 2 weeks to think about it and really kind of do some independent research and see what kind of things pop out in between then and now. But at least if nothing shows up, we're ready, kind of a thing from my perspective.
I understand.
Okay. Mr. Stanger does have a motion to include the $5,000. So yeah, I guess I guess I'll go ahead and move forward with the vote on that now, and if it fails, we can bring it up again at the next meeting. But maybe I guess I'll ask for a roll call vote for now. Yeah, just a roll call vote on that, just to manage the ayes and nays a little bit.
Okay, Dominic Denelli,
Yes.
Talon Shreve,
Yes.
Lisa Minor,
Yes.
Joe Chatfield,
No.
Krista Zapone,
Yes.
Jared Zimmerman,
Yes.
Jeff Stanger.
Yes.
It passes.
All right. I guess so. I'll take that. I guess I'll suggest that the motion on the table then be the kind of the mayor's recommendation to move forward with the amendment of $5,000 added for the Denali Preschool and Learning Center. Is there a motion to make that recommendation or to make that award?
Also move as amended.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Zapone to move forward as amended with the award, and seconded. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, anyone opposed to moving forward with the amended recommendation? Hearing none, call that unanimous and move on to the Emergency Services and Public Safety Grant Application Review. And go back to Mayor Walker again.
Yeah, thank you. So the four organizations here are the Tri-Valley Volunteer Fire Department, and their application this year is consistent with past years, wherein it's the summer medic program that is the big request. And it is reimbursable. Those are expenses that they incur and seek reimbursement for. And McKinley Volunteer Fire Department, Denali Emergency Services Association, that's primarily dispatch and pooled collected expenses such as insurance between the departments and the Cantwell Vfd. So in historical practice, we'll start with Cantwell Vfd. They Marginor submits an incredible application, highly detailed and very accountable. And again, she gets an A++, and it's actually, you know, a relatively modest request for the level of service they do provide there. And Denali Emergency Services, the price of dispatch and other pooled needs of the departments, that's recommended for full funding, as is Cantwell Volunteer Fire Department. And McKinley definitely sharpened their pencil and asked for a reduced number than they'd had for a while. They hadn't been down below 20,000 in a little while. And they're providing a heightened level of service these days with an active membership, and that's recommended for full funding as well. And Tri-Valley's request was for the summer medic program was for $239,000 for the provision of EMS services here through the summer, which is a very important service. And at the same time, we know that's, you know, the kind of the biggest lever here and the biggest request. And so we really took a careful look at their request. We thought it was a good proposal, well backed up. At the same time, run numbers are lower this year than they have been. Run numbers were lower last year. And as you know, Tri-Valley Volunteer Fire Department did get significant CARES funding last year. So for some historical reference, in 2018, they were funded, the summer medic program, I should say, was funded to 197,000. In 2019, just a couple years ago, it was funded to $219,000. There were over 200 runs that year. Last year they had 37 runs, and so yeah, we did. I'm recommending a reduced contribution from 239 to just below the 2019 figure, and recommending 215,000 for the summer medic program. So also, as you deliberate the emergency services grant program, emergency services and public safety grant application programs, I would also add that you know that they also receive a per capita funding that is in code. So it's not deliberated, it's not decided upon a deliberative body, but it's in code, and those figures are 31,158 for Tri-Valley as a per capita funding for fire and EMS. McKinley this year will be getting $5,550 per capita funding. There's no strings attached to that per capita funding. It's not reimbursable. There's no reporting. Its use is more at the discretion of the department. And Cantwell Vfd gets $6,570 in per capita funding. Just so you know, that's another and different funding source that they receive. But our task today is to review and make a request for, or make a determination for the upcoming resolution for those 4 requests and those 4 associations.
Ms. Minor.
Can I correctly assume that this 19,990 is a typo for
Yes.
the McKinley Volunteer Fire? Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Good catch. That is a typo. As
Mrs.
is the title of the document, grand requests. We wish they were grand this year, but they're not.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. In the notes for the summer medic program, they mentioned something about interns. I was just wondering if we had any information on that, and are they paid interns, or is it they're getting hours, or do we know? Because in the minutes, from what I remember reading this afternoon, it was a newer position, I guess, in the Tri-Valley Fire Department. Do you have any information on that, Mr. Mayor?
Pardon me. They've used interns regularly through the years to run with the department and get great experience. The typical, threesome would be two EMT3s and an intern. Is not an uncommon way for them to respond. But I don't have any specific information beyond that. We could find out if we got specifically who and what type of intern.
Well, we'll go on to a applicant comment here, I believe, and we
Oops,
have
my apologies.
we can I think if Mr. Kimmel wants to respond here in a little bit.
Yeah, I can respond if you want me to now. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and move on to I guess it's our applicant comment period, but yeah, just a chance for you, Mr. Kimmel, to respond to that, and anything else you want to state regarding your application.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking your time to listen to me. Just so you know that last year we had a pretty significant request of money and funding, and the CARES funding provided a lot of that money. This year for our funding, we actually dropped our funding significantly from what we have in the past years, and we actually dropped our medics from usually we run 4 medics a year per shift. Now we've dropped it down to 3 medics and an intern. The intern is typically an ETT who is a high school student who runs along with the paid medics to get experience with the hopes of them continuing their career in medicine. We've got lots of people that have done that. Several high school students in Tri-Valley have continued as paramedics and EMT3s and so on and so forth. But it's been a great program that has really helped the students here in the community to learn and to further their medical careers. And yes, calls did drop significantly last year, but we are anticipating that there will be some kind of a rise in some tourism this year. I don't know the exact numbers, but when it comes to medicine, I don't ever want to fall on the side of being short, where if I have to drop medics and something does happen, then we're up a creek with no services to provide. As well with that, medications over these last years have gone up dramatically. I'm paying double, triple, sometimes quadruple the price of some medications that are out there now, just because pharmacology, farm companies have doubled and increased their prices because of the high demand. So a lot of the prices for that has gone up a lot. So we're spending a lot more money on the little medications that we do use and we're using. But again, with all that being said, our medic program has our requests have dropped significantly from what it was last year and what we did need, and we did drop medics this year because of that. Just cutting funding. I mean, the summer will still happen, but it'll definitely make it much more of a challenge for us as EMTs. We have actually we run typically paramedics and EMT3s, some EMT2s as well. But it, like I said, full funding will be great. Without the full funding, we may need to drop a medic or 2 potentially. I have to look at my numbers if that's what happens. And I don't ever want to err on the side of too little for medicine, because we're taking people's lives in our hands and being 2 hours away from medical care. And the community clinic may or may not be open. I'm not sure what the status is. It could be a life-changing decision. But thank you for your consideration, and we will definitely appreciate whatever we do get, and we'll have to work with whatever that may or may not be. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmel. And there is a question for Mr. Stenger. Are the interns paid, and how much, if so, and how many are there?
I don't have the exact number on because I'm not home or in my office. I'm at a different meeting right now. But they are paid a small amount. We typically hire 2 interns, one that works with each shift. I can get that information to you at a next meeting, or I could email it to somebody tomorrow. But I do not know the exact number. It is a small stipend for their time that they work with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for responding to my questions, Mr. Kimmel.
No worries.
And is there any applicant comment from McKinley Volunteer Fire? Or Denali Emergency Services Association? And Cantwell Volunteers?
I have one other question. It's Jeff.
Go ahead, Mr. Stenger.
Mr. Mayor, how does this funds requested this year for Tri-Valley compare to the prior, did you say?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Stenger. So last year, was the anomaly. We canceled our grant programs, and we did use CARES fundings. And yeah, Tri-Valley did receive, as I just used the word ample, for their receipt of CARES monies, and they used it for both EMS response and to make some safety and water upgrades at the community center. So discounting the CARES money, let's go back to 2019. You asked how much they received the summer medic program in 2019. It was 219,000. And in 2018, the summer medic program received 197,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any public comment regarding the emergency services and public safety grants?
This is Sam Kimmelgan. If I can speak, that'd be great.
Sure, go ahead.
Just to clarify, the increase in amount from the 2018 to 2019 was that we went from running 3 medics per shift to 4 medics per shift at a higher level of care. And we also, instead of running medics, typically we tried to cut the budget the best that we could. So what we did was, for the month of May and September, we ran only 2 medics on call, which was quite exhausting for those medics that were on call. I was one of them. So with that being, we increased our numbers in May and September to run a soft start with 2 medics, and then 3 medics, and then 4 medics as the weeks progressed. And that was the major jump from the 2018 to 2019 year. So just to clarify, that was why there's a significant from that one, I think it was 197 to 219. I can't remember exactly what it was, but that was just so you guys are aware of that. That's why there was a significant jump in that one year.
Go ahead, Krista.
And so just so I make sure I completely understand what you're saying here, Mr. Kimmel, with the requested numbers, you guys are looking at 3 medics to alleviate that, as you quoted, exhaustion. Is that correct?
Yeah, could you please just repeat that one more time?
I guess what I'm asking is if the amount that you requested for this go round is going to provide that 3rd medic for that shift as compared to the 2, or is this a soft start situation again, kind of thing?
No, we are soft starting as well. Again, we're running with 2 medics in the beginning and slowly increasing to 3 towards the end of the month. And the interns don't start until the first week of June, and they end in before school starts in August. But it's a soft start again, and so we try to reduce some of those costs. But again, from 2019 to 2021, medications have drastically gone up and stuff like that. So that's some of the costs from, if you're comparing 2019 to 2021, and then in previous years, like I said, we've dropped significantly in our number of personnel care for that. So trying to keep that number down as low as we can.
Thank you again.
I have a question.
Mr. Stinger.
The amount of runs that you do correspond with how many people you have, correct? And with no tourists coming this year, no boats running, there should be a significant drop. And I mean, it's all hypothetical in the amount of runs you're going to make. Is that correct to assume?
I don't assume that. I think we're going to have more people this year. I mean, I've talked to cabin owners and people at rental places, and they're getting bookings. I know that Princess will not be fully open, but they're talking about doing soft opening. I know that the McKinley or the Denali village down there in McKinley is planning on opening. So I believe, from what I'm hearing, is that there's going to be more places open this year than last year. So that's why I don't want to take a chance of dropping more people, dropping more medics in that case. I'm not anticipating a smaller season, especially now with Alaska being open. I think we're going to get more lower 48ers, more people traveling via plane and doing tours up here because they don't have to get COVID tests to travel up here, but they do have to COVID test to travel overseas. So I think we're going to have a small increase from last year, not anywhere near like we've had in the past, but I think we're going to have an increase from what I'm gathering by talking to people and businesses.
Thank you. I hope you're correct.
Any other public comments, Mr. Denali?
Yeah, I just want to echo Mr. Kimmel's assessment. I have communicated a bit with the management group with the Grand and the Bluffs, and they're looking to see a much stronger season in 21. They're projecting 65% occupancy with the Bluffs and the Grand Denali combined, those two lodge operations. So that's encouraging.
This is Vanessa. Mind if I chime in here?
Yeah, please.
Pretty much across the board, excursions and accommodations are seeing significant increases from last year, up to 40% above what last year was. And the traffic just seems to continue to grow. There is a massive amount of marketing happening on the state level to get people to Alaska. And so I anticipate that as the summer progresses, we will be busier and busier, and that we really might have a pretty significant August and early September. That's what our numbers at this point are showing, that the farther we get into the season, the busier it's going to be.
That's great news.
Any other public comment for the Emergency Services and Public Safety Grant? Okay, let's move on to Assembly Review and an award. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to accept the grant recommended funding for emergency services.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Denali to take on the mayor's recommendation and move forward. It's been seconded. Any discussion or amendments on that motion? Ms. Minor.
Sorry. So if with this, with the 215, is the Tri-Valley Fire going to be able to operate their 4 medics, or are they going to have to cut down to 3? I guess that's if they're not fully funded, are they going to have the staff that they need in order to meet the demands that we'll have this summer?
Ms. Zafone.
I think Mr. Kimmel mentioned he would have to look at his numbers and maybe provide us some feedback for that at the next meeting. That's kind of what I took away from what he was saying anyway.
And I'm to understand these numbers aren't hard and fast. These are recommendations into the next meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Stenger. Any other discussion on that motion? All right, anyone opposed to moving forward with the mayor's recommendation for emergency services and public safety grant? Okay, call that unanimous. And that'll bring us back to public comment for the special meeting as a whole. We got any communications through the office?
No, no phone calls or emails.
Okay. And if there's no public comment, we'll move on to assembly comment. And start at the top here with Mr. Denali.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to all the grant applicants for putting forward their applications very professionally submitted. I agree with Mayor Walker's assessment, just how well they were put together, and also taking consideration for the financial realities facing the borough, and submitting their requests accordingly. So much thanks, appreciation for all the hard work and effort going into putting those applications forward. I'm comfortable with the recommended funding levels put forward by the mayor, particularly given that this will give us, we have another couple of weeks to digest research and come back and make some adjustments. So comfortable with the decisions that have been made here this evening. That's all for me.
And Mr. Shreve?
Thanks for everybody coming and joining this meeting. I know it's hard to see some of the numbers, but if we don't cut back now, it'll just keep compounding over the years, because it's going to take us a few years to get back on our feet as a borough. And I'd hate to see next year where we can't fund anything because we tried to fund everything this year. So thanks for everybody understanding and seeing where we're at.
Ms. Minor.
Yeah, I say the same. Thank you for the grant applications, and it is, and when we have depleted funds, you kind of have to focus on the most essential things that need to stay open, and it is hard to decide what goes where and who gets money, and hopefully it's not offending anybody, and I think most everybody's on board and they recognize that we need to lower that. And so I appreciate everybody's attempt to lower their budgets as much as possible when they were sending in their applications. And then I just wanted to say thanks to Trina and to the mayor. I know you guys are paying attention to those outside options, other grants, other monies that are available. And so I hope the community sees that and can, I guess, seek out that guidance, because there are lots of other options, and the borough is trying to do everything they can to help these nonprofits and things like that. So thank you for doing that.
Mr. Chatfield.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for their participation too, and just echo the words of the previous assembly members that have just spoken. I just want to say in my own words that these are difficult times, and we're basically faced with making a lot of hard decisions, and you do have to evaluate what is going to be the highest priority. And obviously life safety in my mind's eye is a very, very high priority. After that, then come the other things. Everything else would be secondary to that. So I would say that the emergency services that we have in this borough, although they are limited by comparison to other municipalities and jurisdictions, I say we get a really, really good bargain for the money that this borough spends, and for the monies that they acquire from other sources. I just a little bit about me. I have a background in fire, EMS, and a little bit in law enforcement, and so I have an understanding, a very good understanding of what it costs to run EMS and firefighting services, and it's not cheap, and it's demanding. We place a lot of demands on our volunteers, and then the paid personnel, I got to tell you, they could go a lot of other places and make a lot more money for what they do. Instead, they just come here for the summer medic program. I say kudos to them. They were working for half the money I've seen in other locations. And when I say that, I'm talking half the money, like in 1999. people were making far more than they are right now. So we're getting an extremely good deal in return for the money we spend on the emergency services. And I just want to make sure that people are really clear on that. And I just commend everyone that is volunteering and stepping up and working this summer medic program, because they aren't getting much money for what they do. And my longest run times were maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours in the ambulance. These guys are going at least 2 hours one way. They have to go out, give the report, write the report at the hospital, clean and restock the ambulance, and get back into service and come back here. That's a minimum of 6 hours, and it's more likely going to take 7 or 8 sometimes every time they get a call. So anyway, just thank them very much, and have a good evening.
Okay, Ms. Zapone.
Yeah, I was pretty active throughout the meeting with some of my opinions and comments, but just to kind of echo what everybody said to this point, I recognize that these are hard times, and that our EMS and our medical services are obviously first, and then historically, in my opinion, the school district was next. So, and then with our forward funding, our offices and everything are always kind of budgeted for going forward, which is awesome. So I think tonight was pretty productive. I think even if not everybody's happy, it really started some of these conversations. And like Mr. Shreve said, we've got to tighten the belt now before we don't have any money to give out at all. Last year we didn't fund any of these programs, and so I think we are doing the best that we can while being responsibly operating as a borough. So thank everybody for their efforts. And again, all the applicants, these applications are lengthy. You guys did a good job. They're very professional, and I appreciate that. So thank you everybody who attended tonight and who will listen before our next meeting as well.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to echo a lot of comments that we've had here tonight, and yeah, thank all the applicants. Both for good applications for work they want to do, and the work that they do get done. Kind of like Mr. Chatfield was saying, a lot of critical work to make our community a good place to live happens through our nonprofits, and with the limited government we do have here, it's nice to be able to support them, but it makes it a lot easier to cut bait when times do get rough. And I think we do see that a little bit here, and in the reduced amount of funding we're able to put forward. So I certainly feel that all the work of these organizations is critical to being here. And one of the big things for me is coming out of this, kind of the financial crisis related to COVID anyway, is just making sure that we don't lose any of those critical pieces. And appreciate the thought that the mayor and staff has put into this, and moving forward here tonight, feeling like we are able to move forward without doing any critical damage as we shake things up. I am interested, as we put this in the context of the rest of the budget and what that means for us, going forward, and the rest of our fiscal situation. We're certainly not through it yet, but I think this gives me at least a really good picture of where we want to be with this program. And appreciate the thought that went into the code revision in terms of how we administer these programs and get them passed off from the mayor to us tonight. I appreciate going through each of these in a little bit more of a formal manner, and I think we've come a long way in these grants management just in the time I've been on the assembly. So glad we had this process in place to have difficult discussions tonight, versus kind of the hot potato, here you go, aspect that we had in the past a little bit. So yeah, that's what I got. Look forward to working together and yeah, partnering with everybody that's here tonight, moving forward as we still kind of work our way through this thing. And Mr. Stenger.
Thank you. I too wanted to just, for all the applicants, I really appreciate all the hard work and effort that went in. It's obvious you tried to cut back and you understand the times we're in. I know a lot of effort went in by the mayor and the borough office into these recommendations and numbers. And this is, again, just the starting point for the assembly meeting going forward. And my priorities, I echo everything that every one of the other assembly members said. I agree with every one of you on all your points. To me, it's emergency services first and education, and then we can fund whatever we can after that. But the most important part is keep the lights on and the buildings warm. Emergency services is number one. We can't really shut that down, and it's really important to keep our education up in the schools. So just want to thank everybody for all they said. Fellow assembly members, you guys killed it with your comments, left me nothing else to say. Kind of mad about that, but I appreciate it. Thanks.
Do you have anything else, Mayor Walker?
Yeah, you guys, thanks for all your work and dedication. And yeah, to all the applicants who did do such good work and provide such great services in the borough, such a big part of who we are. And you know, as I said, I wish we were in that position to be able to fully fund everybody like we've been in the past. But I also, just on the business side, want to mention that other grant programs, we do have a lot of grant programs that are not part of this review, or the municipal assistance program that'll be in the budget. And then, and that newer one, the emergency response apparatus grant, that'll be treated separately as well. So you tackled these three big programs, but there are a couple others in there as well that we'll talk about in the budget process. And this was our first time doing it this way, and I congratulate you. I thought it went really well and was valuable. So thank you.
I guess I'll take a little second bite and thank the finance committee. I did listen or watch the meeting on the YouTube the other day. It was fun to see it all happen and just be able to sit back and enjoy it all. Great job, Ms. Zabone, leading that. And there's a really good presentation that the mayor and Ms. Planty did, just kind of providing some context for the budget. So I'm not sure how much we'll get into that, you know, at our next meeting, but it was certainly useful for me to put a little picture in there. So if folks here or listening in are interested in that, for all of our YouTube, Denali Borough YouTube channel addicts out there, it's a good one. You want to go back and make sure you hit that one. But we got more coming up. April 6th, 7th, and 8th. Can get your fill of road name public hearings. And then on April 14th, we'll be back here again for our regular meeting.
Thanks. And if I might just clarify, those 6th, 7th, and 8th road naming meetings, they do go sequentially from the southern part of the borough. It's Cantwell and McKinley, and even up to the canyon on the 6th, the central area of the borough, the Healy broader area on the 7th, and the northern part of the borough on the 8th. Thanks.
Mr. Zimmerman, I just wanted to add a special kudos to Mr. Denelli and Mr. Stenger, who tuned in for our finance committee meeting. I really appreciate the initiative as some of our newer members to really dive in and educate yourselves. And then just wanted to note that the finance committee, just like every other meeting in the Denali Borough, is open to the public. So we encourage people to come and see the process for themselves and alleviate any misunderstandings at every level that we can. So Thank you guys again for tonight.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Stanger. And with a second, we'll call that good. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. See y'all
Yeah,
later.
Good night. Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.